All right, my friends, we are back in the high graphics world of Dominions 5 with the beginning of a new series that I didn't expect I would be doing a while ago, but I'm very excited to be invited to do it. On General Confusion's channel, a new game has started, and rather than dive in as a player, because I've got precious little time on my hands, I have decided to play a mod race called the Omniscience, which basically is a nation that is designed to do absolutely nothing other than observe the game. So we're going to be playing Observer mode in a 15-player game run by some names that you'll all know and love, and basically watch a game play out. And I'm really excited to try this format because it'll give me an opportunity to, with perfect knowledge, observe so many different wars and interactions at the same time. Normally when you're playing, you have limited information and you can miss part of what's happening in the rest of the game. And often I'm just telling you what I hear is happening. Here, we're going to be able to see, we're going to be able to show, we're going to be able to tell, we're going to learn lessons from the good, the bad, and the ugly, and you're going to be able to reassure yourselves that everyone in this game makes mistakes, because Lord knows we'll see a couple of them. So, in order to observe this game, we are the Omniscience. We are a nation of Astral 10, Holy 10, 5,000 hit point monoliths that exist in a province that is not connected to any other province on the map. We are isolated, we are invulnerable, and we have little spies in every single province that will allow us to see exactly what is happening. So, who is joining us this game? Well, we have... Well, I'm going to read off my list, and then we'll go through the actual names. So I've got GC playing Mekone. I've got Foxy Dean playing Xibalba. Haerdalas playing Yomi. Johan playing Caelum. Firekron as Orm. Xenohunter as Saramatia. Imir as Helheim. Triph as Berytos. Nosy Rat as Fomoria. Mandar as Atlantis. We've got Baal and Stalin as Relay. McGill as Pangea, Jimothy as Agartha, Cassius as Tiananog, and Ryny as Hinom. So our pretenders: Eternal Crackling of Orm, Charlie Sheen of Saramatia, Flaunting Fantastic Feathers of Caelum, Victor of Pangea, EU5 Orm Memes of Agartha. Love it. Shaozu Kaga of TNN, bit of a cultural crossover there. Sad Boring Titan of Fomoria. Investigate 311 of Hellheim. Totally Valid Nation Choices of Yomi. That is indeed a totally valid nation choice. Haerdalas. Feed Me Abyssians Hinom. Love the lore reference there. Mother of the Goat-Faced Swarm of Berytos. Sonic Adventure 2 Jiggle Physics of Xibalba. The Gigantist. It's always the Gigantist of Mekone, mono-dropping in the name of Atlantis, and You Shall Be Mind Blasted, all caps, of Relay. And of course, we are the Huawei 5G network of the Omniscience. So, what I'm going to do this episode, we're going to go over every person's spawn location. I'm starting this video on turn 3. Why? Because it means we get to see everyone's first turn expands. We're going to talk a little bit about who's playing, nation choices, as we go through one by one. We're going to work through the various corners of the map. And you know what? I like to start with sadness and suffering. So let's join the western corner of the map, which has some of the sadder nations in the sadder positions. And there is perhaps no sadder in this situation than EA Xibalba, being played by Foxy Dean. Foxy's a relatively new player, but he's also playing in my Pelagio Disciples game. So a relatively new player. Love the fact that he's coming out and throwing his hat in the ring. But he's playing EA Xibalba. He's playing EA Scales Xibalba, so Noblesse Xibalba. So the blood summons and scales just won't be there. And he's sucked up one of the shittiest starts I can imagine. So he's out here on this little peninsula thing as the Bats, with exactly one province that will allow him to get out of this starting area. But, you know, he's trying to make it work. He's thrown out a bunch of Bats, and he only lost 2 in his initial expansion, which is a freaking miracle with Bats, albeit there were only 11 defending units, and it was a 9-income province. Good luck, Foxy. We'll be watching you as time goes on. But the problem here is the Bats are going to have precious little they can do against things like 30 heavy infantry, unless they assassinate the commanders. They're going to have to fight their way through the Jaguar tribe slingers, but then they're going to run into a little bit of a problem. The problem is going to be if they go into the high-income provinces to the north, they have to fight a whole bunch of horse tribe cavalry, which, you know, they're not going to be in a very good position to do. So the only pathway is going to be south through Thingwoods, which is a 9-income province and a bunch of long-dead horsemen that is in Atlantis' cap circle. So, this is shit. Here is an early prediction for Xibalba. You are weak. You have pretty bad to terrible troops. You are isolated. You have a limited expansion pathway. At least you're a flyer, and that will partly save you in terms of map move. But this is a really challenging start. I think what we have to watch for here is the possibility of an early rush from Atlantis. If Atlantis is able to get peace with its underwater neighbor, I would absolutely put EA Atlantis up in a fight against EA Xibalba. Especially since this is scale Xibalba, there's not going to be any Blessed Sun Guards, and there's no question of Blood Summons saving the day. So, if Atlantis wants to come on land, there is exactly one province between these two capitals, and there is precious little to stop Atlantis from rolling right on in. So we'll see if that happens. One thing that might stop that happening is, well, let's segue into talking about the water nations. So Atlantis is being played by Mandar. Mandar's an experienced player. He's been around the circuit for a while. He's playing, well, I'm not sure what exactly version of Atlantis he is playing yet. Haven't chatted to him just right this moment. But he's expanding with just mixture of, this just looks like the starting army and a few extra warriors of the deep. Looks like an ordinary water expand. He may go on land too. And he's interacting with GC of Mekone, who's got a coastal start over here. Now, GC, interestingly, I'm not seeing an awake expander. So, we are looking at a Helot-based expansion led by a Lokos that has Cs 95. In terms of this interaction, this makes GC another potential target for Atlantis, but not as good a target for Atlantis. So Atlanteans, I think the problem Atlanteans would face is a lot of them don't, a lot of their good troops, like things like Deep One Spearmen, for example, don't use shields because underwater units don't tend to. Some of the Shamblers do. And the Helot Peltast is just so massive against that sort of threat that I think Javelins would just put them down, at least sufficiently cost-effectively that you wouldn't want to rush them. And also, if you're going to bring like SCs, Thugs as Atlantis, Basalt Kings, and things like that, you've got a direct match against things that hit really, really hard, really well from Mekone, namely the Gigantes themselves. So, less likely rush target. We'll come back to GC and Mekone. The other water nation down here is the mind-blasting squids, everyone's favourite Early Age Relay. Early Age Relay being played by Balin Stalin, who's playing EA Atlantis, ironically, in my other game. And he has expanded out with, he's just trained some Mind Blasters to augment his shitty starting troops, the Slave Troopers and the Slave Guardians. No doubt, probably what happened is the Slave Troopers here are slightly faster and got murdered because they're prot. But he's expanding out, taking some geared provinces. Now, in terms of expansion, the water nations are as far away from each other as it is possible to be given the size of their lake. They have, I believe, 11 water provinces each, which is a decent allotment. You only need about 4 water provinces to make 4 land provinces to make quota as an underwater nation. In a straight-up fight early on, I like EA Relay slightly more than I like EA Atlantis in an underwater fight, but we will watch them closely. There's already been a lot of talk in chat about whether or not this will devolve into a 1v1. There are 3 options for this sort of 2-player underwater scenario. Option 1 is the immediate knife fight to the death, where one says 1v1 me, IRL bro, and this is a fight to the death. In that sort of scenario, I think the Mind Blasters of Relay probably take it, although Atlantis has the better troops and will be able to bring things like Basalt Kings, but Basalt Kings, if not supported, are vulnerable to Mind Blasting early on, and Mind Blasting is one of the things that Relay does almost better than just about anyone else underwater. So that'll be interesting to see. Option 2 is they hug box, and option 3 is they have a nervous piece and then they stab with a conjuration timing. So that'll be an interesting one to watch, especially with a throne in the middle. Nice, and we know this is the Throne of Fortune. Fantastic. I might not click on thrones because the players now know the idea of like those thrones. So, you know what, I'm going to keep that one in as one little spoiler, but as a general rule, I don't think I'm going to right click on thrones from now on, at least not for a few more turns. So that's our water scenario here. Moving back and covering the rest of the coastline. So we've got Mekone. Now, Mekone may be next to Atlantis, which may not be great, but in other aspects, I really quite like the spawn. There are provinces around that are easy to squish, even if they're relatively low income, that lead to moderate income provinces that are equally easy to squish, although, that is war elephants. Unfortunate. Militias, archers, light infantry. Okay, so this coastal area is good, although Atlantis might get to that first. That'd be a good pickup for Mekone down there. The real value, I think, is that there's this void up here, which is meant to be contested between Xibalba and Mekone. This is the game compensating for the fact that they have no provinces to their west because they're water. So the game's generated all these provinces over here to give them room to maneuver. It's going to be a race between Mekone and Xibalba, and to an extent the other nations that are spawning up there. I think Mekone is better placed to win that race than Xibalba. You wouldn't normally say that about Mekone, but Xibalba's got a tough gig starting out here, and as I said, I reckon there's a danger down here. Berytos. Berytos played by Triph. Again, another name that you would have heard before. Expanding well, Berytos. Very comfortable with the coastal start, obviously, being Berytos and having access to coastal recruits wanting to live along coasts. They're going to expand relatively well. They've got a decent core. Let's see what they did in terms of the Colossi Warriors. Are they blessed? These are the first people where I can actually see whether they had a bless. No, I want Colossi. I want Colossi Warriors. There we are. Attack skill, magic weapons, shock resistance 10, defense skill, strength, blood surge. That is a big-ass rainbow. Not big-ass, but a reasonably good rainbow. So it's a nice utility rainbow bless. And that's enough to just make them just a little bit better than they otherwise would be. And they're going to murder these independent troops. Now, they've also got a decent expand position here. Maybe not here, War Elephants, but they can absolutely hit these Ichthyid warriors and then be comfortable turning right into the tribe. Not particularly high value. There's some Amazons down here if they want them. That'd be, Amazons are always handy. Some more Ichthyids. Bone Tribe are tough to break through. So I would go through the archers and militias, go through this coastal route, and eventually combine. The good thing about this, though, is that it means you can get Bone Tribe recruits. And Bone Tribe mages can be a decent addition to some nations. So I'd say that's that's a reasonably valuable pickup for Berytos, because if you recall, Berytos, where are we looking? Here we are. Berytos does not, I believe, have death in their normal line. They do not. So lacking death in their normal line, Bone Tribe would be a nice pickup because you'd add death to your nation. You can put crystal matrices on them, wire them into communions because you are astral capable. You're good to go. This is an okay spawn. Working our way to the complete. Oh, should we do the other flank? Yeah, let's do the other flank. Okay, so here we have. We got some elven. We got an elven and everyone's favorite hybrid elves and giant nation. Of Tinanog and Fomoria. So, TNN, played by Cassius. Let's see if this is a Twaha Bless. So, clearly spent the first turn just recruiting some Twaha. Again, nothing in the Awake category. I'm not seeing a Bless drop yet. I'm seeing lots of Sermon of Courage. Now Divine Blessing. Divine Blessing after they'd already made contact. PR 15, HP 2. Okay. Dormant or Imprisoned. Dormant or Imprisoned Incarnate Bless. Or complete perfect scales. In a few turns we'll get the Omniscience spell up, which will allow me to see scales, and then we'll know better. But anyway, expanding backwoods. This area is a little bit tight, but it's not as tight as it looks. Because while Agartha is to their west, those connections are actually quite distant. There's 3 provinces here, whereas it looks like this would connect here, it doesn't. So there's not actually a shared cap circle situation going on here. Xenocephalian Warriors and Hunters. That's an interesting indie type in Mountains of Evernite. The coastal, heavy cav, depends how many there are. Wolf Tribe should be okay to go through. Militias and heavy cavalries. This is not great, but for the most part, I think Glamour and Defense should get their way through most of this if they're smart about how they expand. But I wouldn't be thrilled if I had perfect information and I was TNN. Meanwhile, if I was Fomoria, I'd be feeling pretty damn good. So Fomoria has successfully expanded out. Hit me the Firbolg champion is leading out their starting army, has successfully taken Laria. Larius gave them an air gem. They love free air gems. They got that one straight off, and it's a 73 income province. Now, Fomoria being a coastal start is absolutely fine. They have the potential to be a spoiler in the water. They're not as good in underwater combat as their two water nations, but if they were to join one side in a war, they could potentially tip it. And they've made a statement of intent by hiring the wet ones straight off. So this is it. These wet ones can either be used to expand, or they could perfectly easily go straight into these Turtle Tribe Tritons and probably win. And that would break them into one underwater province. Other than that, there are some easy targets. Lion Tribe, absolute trash. Mostly militias, trash. And yet, 62 and 71 income, good provinces. Heavy infantry and slingers. Fomoria can smash through this. So I'm seeing a lot of paths of least resistance for Fomoria. Good expand, away go into the water if they want to. I expect a rapid expand from Fomoria. And Fomoria is aided a little bit by the fact that TNN is a decent nation, but not super powerful. And then over here, you've got Haerdalas. Now, disclaimer, Haerdalas is a good player, and I have seen him fight some absolutely fearsome offensive and defensive campaigns. But today, he's playing Yomi, and he seems to be embracing the fact he's playing Yomi by calling his god totally valid nation choices. It is an awake statue, an idol of men to be precise, which means this is an awake incarnate bless. Let's see if we can see what exactly he's gone with in terms of that bless, because it'll tell me if he is doing what I think he is planning on doing. Come on, cast blessing. Okay. Shock resistance, regeneration, or... Yep, he's doing it. He's doing it. Okay, so... Regen or. Why would you take regen or? Okay, so I assume most people know Yomi. Yomi is a nation of... you have terrible income, because you have a special rule that reduces income in your lands. You have limited free spawn demons. You free spawn chaffy demons and the occasional dangerous demon. This is an example. Kuro-Oni is an example of a more dangerous demon. Very hard-hitting, dangerous, ghost form, etc. Like, pretty good for something you get for free. But you only do those in areas where you have temples, which means you don't have the swarms and swarms and swarms and swarms of them that someone who's like a true pop kill or something like that is. You're a free spawn, non-pop kill, but poor nation. However, you have the Dai-Oni, the recruitable Dai-Oni. Let's have a look. This guy... 490 gold, 4 rec points, but you get 50 hit points, you get a bunch of magic paths, you get the enchanted Nodachi at a high attack stat, because that's got an attack bonus of 3, so it strikes at 17 attack. And he can throw flames. He's got protection, he's got defense, he's got attack, he's got a fear aura, which means people will rout off him, and now he's going to have awe. Or fear is a traditional, typical overlapping defense. Fear lowers the chance of people passing a morale check, and awe requires a morale check in order for them to attack you. So compounding fear and awe makes it much more likely combats will last, that fear will take place, and those people will run away. So Dai-Oni expand not by killing people, they expand by making people run away while they don't die. Regeneration will help with that by giving these guys 5 hit points per turn in regen. So for the attacks that do come through, they'll survive. So I would expect that in the next turn or two, we will see a Dai-Oni, and we will see expansion. We will see thug expansion. Not many nations can say that. Not many nations say, my expansion plan is to thug, because most people want construction and a little bit of magic first, but I'm betting Haerdalas is going to give us expansion with just the Dai-Oni. Is this good? Well, I don't think it's as good as Fomoria. Or Pangea. So I would be feeling pretty worried as Yomi right now. But Haerdalas is Haerdalas. We'll see what he can do. Certainly there'll be a window in the early game where people would struggle to deal with Orpheus. But eventually people are going to get tools to deal with Dai-Oni. Anyway, we'll see. But he's got some pretty easy expansions in his immediate area, which will give him money too. He's got 2 Lion Tribe provinces and then a Militia Archer province up here. So this is all easy expansion stuff if he can get to it. Good position. You can already see the danger for a bump, however. look at Agartha. So Agartha, EU4 memes, and Agartha double expanded. Nice. Okay, so and it looks like Olms, so we'll have a look at that in a moment. So we've got Pale Ones, Pale One Warriors. That won't tell us the bless. Anyway, the reason I say there's a bump here, we'll go check the other province in a sec, is so path of least resistance for this arm. Oh, sorry, I take it back. I thought this cave linked here. It doesn't. This army will instead double back, collect more troops, and expand out here, because that's the only bloody option it's got. Having only 3 provinces out of your cap is rough. That is going to be a resource shortage for Agartha. And one of them's a throne, which they will not take for a while. Unfortunate. But they did double expand. They picked this one up. They got the resources. They'll go back. They'll consolidate, and they'll be able to go kill these guys. What do we have here? Oh, yeah, it's an Earth Snake. Okay, so Earth Snake. E4. Cheap as chips. This is a cheap discount bargain basin $2 shop Earth Snake. Supported by some Olms. I wouldn't be supporting it by the Olms because... So these guys are 50 gold each, right? And they should be off supporting an army. Earthsnack can do this by himself. He should just survive at people until they run away from his fear aura. These guys are squishy and expensive. They should be supporting an army, not the Awake Expander. And I think we're about to see why, actually. Unless these guys rout. No, they don't. Oh, okay. So Hobo Militia are useless. They have strength 6. They do 9 damage with their stick. But Great Olms only have Prot 10 and 6 defense skills, so they're going to hit all the time. And some of them are going to roll big enough. What is the Bless, by the way? The Bless is Nat Prot 5, so this is a 29 protection Earth Snake. There's precious little that's going to kill that in the early game. Oh, he lost an Olm. That's really sad. The snake could have done that by itself. Anyway, so Agartha won't double expand next turn probably. It'll be back here and that, and then Snake will pick one of these provinces to kill. With an Awake Expander, Agartha is in a stronger position than others would be to contest early expansion. In particular, you can probably bully people a bit with Snake if they don't have things that can kill it. Someone like Hinom, or if you were next to Mekone, have hard-hitting shit that can cut through. Prot 29 sorta, since you don't have regen on it and no way to give it regen. But someone like TNN would really struggle to poke that snake down. So problematic for them. Moving up. Caelum. Classic flyers. Love them. Nothing to say so far. Hard to predict where Caelum will go because Caelum can fly. But obvious targets include the Lion Tribe Warriors, the Militia Archer Heavy Infantry Province, both of which are decent. This one's really quite good. This is small, even though it's heavy cavalry, it's small. Deer Tribe, yeah, there's some good targets around for Caelum, so Caelum will probably do just troop, attack, rear, drop, shenanigan, expansion, and then we'll see soon, what they've got. I'm not seeing an Awake, and we won't know until turn 12 what they've done in terms of dormants, although when I see blesses, I'll be able to start making guesses as to what people have done. And rounding out this corner is a far more dangerous nation than some of the ones we've discussed, or at least on paper. Xenohunter playing Saramatia. Saramatia, dangerous because you have communions, you have blood, you have a good sacred, you have the tattoos which activate, you have fantastic research, you can blood hunt, you can make skeletons, you can do communions, you can do it all cost effectively, you have good sacreds, you have a lot of tools to make your life simple. They're on the list of nations that I want to play at some point. And of course you have really cheap as chips, recruitable female cavalry, which is kind of cool too. Bless here. Okay, rainbow, big rainbow, magic weapons, shock resistance, poison resistance, fire resistance, cold resistance. Now, this is interesting, guys, and it's a nice reminder, you don't need to go Awake to get fire shock resistance. You can just get fire resistance and shock resistance. Poison, cold, defense skill, undying, strength, blood surge, dark vision, undead leadership. Okay, death, blood, earth, astral, air, nature. I think this is a full spectrum rainbow. I think that might legit be a full spectrum rainbow. I didn't look at it too closely. We'll have a look at it later on. But that's a very wide spectrum rainbow bless. And what they're doing here is they're intermixing the Lancers. Lancers are 20 gold, by the way. They only have 1 attack. It's their weakness. They just have the one light lance, but they have nice defense stats. They're mobile, and what they let them do is have a force that keeps up with the Orupata, who are make no mistake, the lizard riding warrior women with the blood surge are the killing power of this force. However, they don't get surrounded and mobbed because the lancers stick with them and give them a little bit of combat mass. Saramatia's expansion should be, looking at this position, should be relatively smooth in this direction. Wolf Tribe, they'll smash. Light Infantry, they'll smash. Malicious Heavy Infantry, okay, so the clear run to the coast is clear. So what I look for is cases where lines of weak paths of least resistance, so lines of weak indies lead to the same provinces that other people will be in at the same time. I can't see one, although if they're tempted to go hoplites and slingers down here, they might end up in Caelum's backyard pretty quickly. We'll see. And then let's go into the center for the last three nations. Apologies if I missed anyone. But we will cover everyone as time goes on, starting off with Ulm. Early Age Ulm, Firekron. You guys know I played EA Ulm before, so I got a soft spot. For them. They're a middling nation. So what we've got here is an expansion of the starting army plus is that Bindar's Mighty Makatas? Bindar's Mighty Makatas. So he's got some Makata archers that are supporting his force here, and he's got a pig. What sort of pig is it? Oh, E6N4. Okay. And not blessed because not in Dominion, but a pig is still a pig. It's still Prot 27. So Earth Magic 6 does mean this is getting 5 from the Berserk, 6 from the Earth Magic. So without casting any spells, it was basically immune to Atavi and Makata. So Pig cleans up that province. And Pig will help them magnify the shit out of their expansion pace. So next turn, they could easily take this with their troops. Yeah, they could take this with their troops. And Pig has to go south. Pig cannot fight barbarians. Ulm is in a tough position. So Ulm, funnily, is a barbarian tribe, and they're surrounded by barbarian tribes. Lots in the Forest of Pine, Fairy Forest. And remember, we can see these numbers more accurately than they can because we've got good scouting. Ulm might not know how many in each one and might not want to risk it. So while these are good provinces, this one has a gem in it though, doesn't it? Yeah, so that one's okay. It has a gem in it. As a whole, these don't look worth it. So Ulm has a way to go in and expand against these. They can either use large numbers of archers, or they can use axe warriors throwing their axes, or they can just use their infantry. Their infantry will win. They have better stats. Like Steel Maidens will absolutely slaughter barbarians because they'll dodge most of the hits and they'll kill 1 or 2 barbarians a turn each. So they can do it. They just can't do it with what they've got right now. The Makata archers actually would have been really handy to have against the barbarians, but better to break out this way. So expect Ulm to go south, but south at a rapid rate, at least 2 provinces per turn. Hinom, nom. Hinom has an interesting start because you've got Crystal Amazons, Trogs, and this indie type, Gigantes, Lokoi, Elder Cyclopes, in their cap ring. That's new. These Amazons will be very useful for Hinom if he gets them. Anyway, he's expanded, and is it Chariot expansion? It's Avim Chariot expansion. So, Avite Chariot, let's get one. Good unit. 16 protection, defense skill 14, so not instantly murdered, 24 hit points, so not instantly murdered, and it's a size 5 trampler for relatively cheap. So against like tribals and things that don't hit particularly hard, they go in and they crush things. Nice. No sign of an awake, no sign of a bless. We'll keep an eye out. This will be a relatively tough position to fight its way out of, though. It is a 4-province cap ring. 2 of them are difficult, which basically means you got to fight through golem range, 1, 3, 4. There are some benefits for Hinom. There is a wasteland here at 159, which they need for summoning. Obviously, their capital counts as a waste. Is that a waste? Yeah, it's a waste. And are there any other wastelands around? I don't know. They really only need 1 to make the best of summoning, so they've got 1, and if they can secure that, it's their strategic goals. Being in the center of the map's always hard. Gives you the most options in terms of expansion, but difficult position for them to be in. So that's Hinom. Don't know yet. Don't know yet. Hinom is a strong nation. If you let them scale, they don't have the out-of-the-box instant threat that Ashdod has, because no one makes Rephaim, because Rephites are like Anakites if Anakites ate your people, ate your supplies, and drove up unrest, which is really expense-inducing and a reason to not want to take them. If we look at the Rephaim for a moment, this is a Rephite warrior, and you can see population killer 20 causes unrest 2, and all you get is it's basically it's a form of Anakite. So nah, most people go with the scales and the Arvium and the chariots because they're all decent options. And the final nation, the Steamroller in waiting, and if I was to make a bet on turn 3, my favourite to win the game, because they're a good nation. And I know Imir knows what he's doing. Imir is playing Helheim. Helheim spawned in the center of the map. Helheim is a nation of death and elves, and it is a good one. Let's have a quick look at Helheim. See, this is a relatively small lineup, but what have you got? Well, you've got a flying sacred, you've got a mounted elven cavalryman who is not sacred, who you can make for 50. You've got the Hellherding, who is a capital only ponyboy sacred. So this is an MA van. This is the MA van sacred, not the Einhir. They've got the Svartalfs, which gives them some dwarf style points. And a potential way up to get to D3 that way, but you already have a recruitable D3 in the form of Hungardrot. The Hungardrotir Death Air cross path mages, which instantly makes them fantastic. Death Air is a heck of a cross path. This is the Wailing Wind and Wind of Death cross path. This is a fantastic mage with a small chance of being Air 3, with a small chance of being Death 4, and Death 4 with the staff means Skullface, which means Death 5, and a small chance of blood, which means small chance of communions. Hungardrotir are awesome. The Dis are the weaker Van sorcerers, but they fly. Map move 28, but they're only A1, D1. But kind of cool. The Van Jarls are your typical expensive raider. The Van Hers is your budget basement raider, just straight A1, enough to self-bus. And then the Hellkarl people I don't think make, because D1 is not as good as A1 if you're going to be thugging, and the Hellkarls are more expensive. So, good lineup, troops that let you expand real quick, standard forts, good mage lineup, thugging potential, and your elvish, and flying units too, so mobility, and then a clear early, mid, and late game plan. Love the nation. Would love to play it if I ever get the chance. So they've expanded out with their starting army, which includes just a relatively small number, you would think, of infantry, but 10 of them are Huskarls. And in the early age, Huskarls are elves. They're not humans yet. So they're glamour, high defense infantry. The Surf Warriors are shit, but that's okay. The 5 Hellherdings he took, they're doing the killing, which means this is going to be Bless. What a surprise! The elves took a Bless. Cast that blessing. What do we got? Magic Weps, Shock Reps, Shock Res, Fire Res, so Fire Shock, Bar Skin, Magic Resistance. So God's Awake, huh? I assume that's what that means. So, what they've done with this Bless. So Fire Shock, the shock resistance is just generally good because you have air capabilities you could use, and also shock resistance is a typical way of killing thugs, or at least certain classes of thugs. The fire resistance more than offsets the fire weakness of Bar Skin and gives you another point of protection against potential threats. Magic weapons is generally useful. The Bar Skin is a great force multiplier. It's taking a defense bless on a mounted Elven Sacred is a good idea. Whether that be Twist Fate, whether that be Stygian Skin, whether that be Bar Skin, as we see here, because suddenly this mounted unit, which costs relatively few resources, has quite high protection values, protection value 18, and considering they're not going to be hit often, Well, we're about to see what happens when they hit heavy cavalry head on. I wouldn't normally do that. I would have let the serfs take it, but they dodged all the lance strikes, delivered lance strikes of their own, and then they're not mega killy, but they're they're to attack, medium to high defense, and if they can't be killed, what does it matter? So, Hellheim will be able to put out one expansion party per turn, I expect. So they've already expanded up here. They've got a huge number of choices. The obvious points of call for Hellheim is to expand in every direction at once, because you can, and then see if you can leverage that into a diplomatic understanding with your neighbours. We'll see how that goes. Hellheim is in a position to benefit from, if they can push into this void, they'll probably meet Ulm eventually. So if Berytos has a habit of hugging the coasts, Hellheim might be able to steal this inland area. And then there's the void, which is meant for Xibalba and Mekone, but Hellheim might be able to get down into that void as well. So yeah, props to whoever made this, Imir, for making the selection of playing Hellheim. Strong nation, watch them very carefully. And I did miss a nation, but I'm doing them now. To wind out this video, we have McGill playing, or McGale, I think it's McGill, playing Pangea. So, interesting nation, Pangea, in that it's basically iconic. I don't think I've ever seen a game where someone doesn't pick Pan. And Pan is strong. Pan is a strong S-tier EA nation because they've got the ability to expand, because they are mobile, because they are killy, because they've got good magic access. They've got lots of tools and tricks. They've got seducers. They've got a lot that they can call on and draw on. And we're about to find out what the White Centaurs are going to be rocking this game. These are White Centaurs with magic weapons, poison resistance, death skill 3, blood surge, larger, combat speed 30. Larger. Yeah, I guess. They're size 4. Well, I wouldn't normally do that. So the reason I wouldn't think to do larger on White Centaurs normally is because you're losing attack density and defense density. You're instead of having 2 per square, you now have 1 per square. Now, there's an argument, I guess, that by making them larger, you're allowing a smaller number of sacreds to hold a larger number of squares. And by giving them defense skill and pushing them up to defense skill 18, you're giving them a chance to defend themselves, even though they're taking more attacks each. They're taking more attacks each because they don't have someone else to possibly take the attacks in their square. They're going to hit really bloody hard. When they berserk, that bronze lance is going to go up to 23 damage, which is pretty damn good for something that's going to be hitting at attack skill 13. They're going to be hard to hit. They got 29 hit points. So instead of giving them like bar skin or something that would give them more protection, we've instead given them a giant hit point pool. Okay. The poison resistance is obvious because Pan has a fan of poison. Pan is a big nature nation. Pan can deploy poison. So giving poison resistance to the sacreds is a nice way to get by on poisoning everything while only having to point buff your mages, which is solid. But anyway, we get ahead of ourselves. The larger White Centaurs should be able to expand. It's just an odd bless. It took me a moment to adjust to. These parties of White Centaurs should be able to... So, for example, militias and heavy infantry. Yeah, this expansion's fine. If anything, it dooms them to an early contact with the Gartha, because Path of Least Resistance up this way would put the Pan army here in 1 to 2 turns, whereas we know in 2 turns exactly where the Agarthan army will be. It'll be here. Wait, does that promise not link to the capital? Oh, God. God, why would you take that cave first? Okay, so that army's going to come here and here. It'll just have to meet up with whatever commander raised those troops there. Geez, okay. Either way, 1, 2, 1, 2, or even 1. So I expect Pangaea to be on Agartha's doorstep before long. This point here, these 4 squares, will be contested between Orm, Agartha, and Pangaea, I expect. Not definite, but I expect, just reading the map. Other than that, what's my overall takes, highlights? It's a brave man that chooses Yomi. It's a braver man that exists between Fomoria, Pangaea, Agartha, and Saramatia while picking Yomi. But, you know, whatever. Underwater Bowl will be interesting. Feel sorry for Xibalba. This is shit. No one should spawn like this. This should not be allowed, especially someone who is as you know, such a top person as Foxy is. Foxy's eternally cheerful and plays the game in good spirits, and you know, brought the meme with EA scale Xibalba, and I feel sorry for this position. I really hope this works out, but that's tough. If I was Atlantis, I would kill them. And of course, GC bringing Mekone. Mekone has been buffed, but they are still not superb. But GC's promised to bring the Brazen Giants. The Gigantist is back, although not in awake form, so probably dormant, I'm guessing. We'll see what the scales are soon. And we're going to see what Mekone can accomplish. So with the 2 people who are having trouble over here, really, we should move Yomi over to this corner of the map so they can hang with the other people that might have a little bit of a hard time. I'm being mean here. So I'm not a great Yomi player. I'm not a fantastic Yomi player by any stretch, but they're not in certainly not pre-buff Mekone. My concerns with Yomi are the lack of funding, so it's 201 income from the capital. My concern is the slow rate on the free spawn and the useless nature, well, not useless, the weak nature of the national troops, relative to the fact that he has spawned between Fomoria, Pangaea, and some dangerous people. That said, if the Dione come out, things might be different. So let's see where they're at in a few turns. Other than that, I hope you're all as excited as I am. This promises to be a good game. I'm going to be covering them. I'm not going to be being exhaustive on every turn. What I'm going to be doing is running key developments, not looking at every player every turn, and then we'll do a check-in of overall game diplomacy at the end of each episode, and I'll try to feature a couple of players each episode. So you won't get full detail on everyone all the time, but you'll get full detail on everyone at least some of the time, and a good sense of how the game is progressing. I'm looking forward to it. Hope you are too. And I'll see you in turn 4, 5, 6 relatively soon, I hope. Cheers.